Day the 4th of December here in Brisbane, which is our 4th day of summer, wherever you are. If you're on the Northern Hemisphere, I hope you're staying rugged up and the temperatures aren't plummeting too fast. If you're in the Southern Hemisphere, wherever you are, I hope you're enjoying the new summer. I thought I'd do something different today with the broadcast, and I want to start by saying that I am certainly not the fastest driver in Gran Turismo 7. In fact, I'm far from it. But I have done this particular race, which is the World Touring Car 600 race at Tokyo, lots of times. I don't know the exact number, but it's my main go-to race for credit accumulation. And obviously for those that aren't familiar with the game, the idea of accumulating the credits is that you can then go in and buy cars and modify cars and customize them with parts, paint colors, etc. So, as I said, I've done this race quite a lot, and I thought I would share some tips on the race. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually play the whole race, a replay of a race I just did, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk through various elements of the race, and then at the end of the race what I'll also do is I'll go into the settings so you can see the setup that I've got for this car. Again, I'm not advocating that you follow my setup exactly, because everybody has different styles of driving, and so my setup may not suit you at all, but for me it works, and my win rate is in the 99.99 something at this track. There have been some races I haven't lost, but that's actually because I've taken vengeance on the AI cars, because sometimes, as those of you may know, they can do some pretty horrible things when you're doing these races. So when I've actually concentrated on racing, I've won every single race, and as I said, I don't know how many there are, but I've accumulated, I think, close on $200 million without using any of the cheats that have been available, or glitches, maybe it's fairer to say glitches, that have been available in the GT7 game since its launch. I know there was one particular glitch where you could jump in a Tomahawk, do a race in about 9 minutes and pick up about $1 million. I believe there was another glitch where you could do a race and pick up a Honda NSXR or something very easily, which obviously has a value now that you can trade the cars in. But I have not done any of those glitches. I know with the latest update that they did to the game, they have made earning the bonus credit in this race harder, and what I'm still trying to figure out what the limitation is, because I have had a couple of races where I haven't received the maximum bonus credit. So for example, this particular race, I got a $550,000 credit. When you do the race without infringing any of the new rule settings, you can get 825,000, I believe it is, off the top of my head. So, and the race takes about 27 to 28 minutes. Well, when I do it, it's in the middle of the 27 minute. I think it says there at the bottom, 27 minutes, 23 seconds. So it's not a bad return for the time that you spend. So, enough said about that. What I'm going to do is I will change between the views as well. So at the moment we're on the in-car view, and I'll refer to this view sometimes when I'm just talking about how you have to change the way you drive the car as the race progresses, because the track conditions do change. You can't see it right now, but when we get out of the tunnel, you'll see that the track surface is quite wet. I'll take off the replay menu and put the display menu on once I hit the start button or the play button, because I'd like you to observe the moisture levels. The other thing that I will mention, as you'll notice when I do take away the replay menu and just show you the race menu, is you'll see I'm doing this race on sports hards. It is a requirement for this race that you do drive on sports tyres. So again, depending on your level of experience, just be prepared that it might take you a little while to adjust to the sports tyres as opposed to the racing tyres. Other than that, I think I'm ready to hit the play button. And as you can see, I'm starting in 16th, which is the default start position for this race. There's no qualifying, and you start last. And obviously the objective of the race is to win, and you have 12 laps to do it. Now, you can do the race without stopping. I would caution you against that though, because you have to run a significant fuel saving, and you have to be very, very kind to your tyres. So it is a bit of a risk. What I do is I do a 1 lap strategy, which you'll see in the race, where I pit in at the end of lap 7. And that seems to be the most successful way. And again, it will depend on your fuel usage as to how successful you'll be with following that strategy. Okay, so I'm going to hit the play button, and then while it's starting, I'm going to remove the menu and bring up the race menu. So you will see a couple of pop-ups just for a second, but then once we do that, I shouldn't need to go back to the replay menu at all. Again, the AIs can be quite nasty to you in this particular race. They seem to be fairly okay. I did hit one car, I think, in the first lap. I had a bit of a brake lock up and it aquaplaned a little bit into the rear of a Porsche, I think. But anyway, you'll see that in the replay. But other than that, I'm pretty sure all of my driving was clean and would comply with FIA standards of driving. I don't think I broke any driving rules. But anyway, let's see. You can be the judge of that. All right, let's hit the play button and let's get into it. As I said, I'll talk about certain elements, but I'll try to not talk too much, just so you can enjoy the race and enjoy the sound of the beautiful F430 Ferrari engine at full noise. And as I said, I will show you the tune that I'm running at the end of the race. Okay, let's get into it. So the thing to note here at the start is the engine revs. For me, it appears the maximum speed for each gear on my settings is to rev it out to about that 9,000 mark. Now you can see the surface is quite wet and we're on sports hards. I might add that the other cars are either on sports softs or sports mediums. None of them are on the hards. So they have a grip advantage on me in the initial stages of the race. I might change the view here whilst we've got a lot of cars around me. We're changing vehicles, my bad. Just change the view because I want you to sort of get a feel for the cars positioning around me. You can see they're still moving around quite a lot too under the wet conditions. But the track is very slippery at this point, so you've got to be really, really precise with your throttle inputs, and especially if you're putting any throttle inputs while you have some steering lock on. A lot of understeer usually happens at that corner, as it does up at this corner. In fact, in lap 1, there's a ton of understeer, and then it can instantly snap into oversteer as you come out of that corner quickly, because the rear axle loses a bit of weight as you come over that tiny little crest as you exit that corner. I think this is where I have contact with that Porsche, and what you'll notice is you'll see the brake light go to red, which means effectively the brakes are locking up. I do run very weak ABS, but no other driving aids. And ready? As you can see, it's locking up now. I'm sort of aquaplaning here, and I had lock on and I couldn't turn. So the stewards might question that, but it didn't impact the race, as per se. No positions were lost or gained. But yeah, could warrant an investigation. Now, one other thing that I'll mention too is you just saw then I weaved from left to right. That wasn't to try and put off any car behind me. It was purely to keep the tyre temperature down. So obviously we're on sports tyres with normal type of grid blocks, as you would have on a normal road tyre, and so the game will simulate the tyres getting hot as you go over dry spots. You can see at the moment that the track is showing on the left hand side. You can see that little light blue bar or white bar on the left hand side moving up and down a little bit. That's the track surface moisture indicator, and it's sort of a guide to what tyres you should be on. At the moment these tyres are okay, but you see when we hit certain patches that will go up. So it's going up now. Just jump briefly as we go through the puddles. So again, I'm searching for puddles in my line, and I know where the puddles are. So as I said, I'm more practiced at this track. Can we see some? So again, I'm trying to be very minimal with the steering inputs, particularly corrections. So the ideal goal is to actually get your line right on turn in. That way you don't have to make many adjustments while the track is at this level of grip. Adjustment there. And again, the key to this surface for those of you, and some of you probably, a lot of you are probably better drivers than me, but for those of you that are learning, the key on the wet track is to try and get your line right, keep your wheel as straight as you can, try to get the apexes. Now I don't get the apexes here because there's a lot of wet on the inside there. You can see the track surface difference. If you do get on that wet stuff and try to put the throttle down too hard, you will break into a wheel spin and a slide, and you will go into the wall. So that's why the lines, that's what I meant by talking about the track surface changing. The track will dry out more and more throughout the race. It's never, in any of the races I've done, it's never gotten any wetter. Sometimes the track surface has dried more slowly than in other races, but it has never gotten more wet in my experience. So you won't have to worry about, do I need to go onto an intermediate tyre or anything like that. See, everywhere I'm going, I'm just trying to find the wet patches to try and keep my tyre temperature down. If I compare it to the leader, that's the Honda NSX, he's on the softs. You can see the tyre degradation already. He's got red marks, I've got nothing. The other thing you'll notice is fuel-wise, we're fairly similar on fuel. But what I think will happen is he'll take a more conservative attitude towards his refueling strategies and pit earlier than I would, so that he fills up less. What I'll do is I'll talk a bit about throttle application of some of the corners, but if you watch the right bar, you can see the throttle application as well. But some of the corners are a little bit trickier. So there's probably more throttle modulation when the track's wet like this than there is steering, because I'm used to the track. That's a very tricky corner. That can so easily catch you out because the surface changing denotes how aggressive your turn is, and at what point you do that turn in to maximise your apex speed. When you get it right, your apex speed is about 152 to 155 kilometres an hour. When you get it wrong, you'll find yourself having to slow down into the high 130s to avoid hitting the wall. So here again I'm hunting, so there's a puddle right there, puddle here, and then we go right, change there. Make sure you gear change before it, because once you hit that puddle, the rear wheels will spin up, you'll hit the limiter, and the car will bog down and you'll lose engine speed and therefore track speed. You can see again the lap times coming down. That's a combination of the track drying and the fuel load lightening. So I get off the power here. See, I've got off the power. That's again just to save some fuel, to extend my range and give me more options during the race. This corner here as well can be very tricky. You can very easily understeer, and this one as well. Just make sure you don't get on the gas until you know that your front end is being compliant with the steering angle you're applying. that's a tricky one. I'll talk about that next lap. So that's another. It's almost like a rallying manoeuvre to get that entry point right, but I'll talk about it next lap. So you can see we've got plenty of space between us. The leader's a couple of seconds up the road, and the guy behind us is, whoops, there you go, there's a bad error. That's probably what cost me the bonus in this race, hitting that wall pretty hard. It didn't damage the car. As you can see, there's no damage around the car, but I think that, I think that's what caused me to lose my bonus, that impact just then, because I don't think I had any other heavy impacts during the race. I might have had some very light grazes of walls where I've just gone in really tight and tried to be greedy with the apex, but I don't think I had any other hard impacts. It was either that or hitting that portion of that one, I don't know which. You can see I'm coming in tighter there, but you can see the line. Look, I probably should pause it so you can have a better look. You can see on the right hand side there, there's definitely a different coloration of the track showing that there's moisture on that side. I'm not going flat out in these laps either, by the way. I'm just gradually building up my pace, and that's deliberate because 1, I'm trying to conserve fuel, 2, I'm trying to also be kind to the tyres, and 3, I'm mindful of what the track is doing. So again, I don't take the line that would be the racing line, which would be over there to the right. I'm staying here to the left. Brake point is about now, down to second gear, and turning in with a little bit of trailing brake. You can do it once the track's a bit drier. If you do it and you've broken too late though, you will end up with an oversteer entry into that corner. And you can also notice that I'm probably getting a bit heavier with the rev range. Now this corner, I get off the gas and I'm going to change the view for next lap. But what I do is actually get off the lap, get off the throttle I should say, for a split second and flick the wheel. What I'm actually trying to do is just induce a bit of four-wheel drift, but more to get the rear end to rotate a bit more than the front, just to help me get really tight into that long left-hander, because it's a bit off camber and you will find yourself understeering over to the right and hitting that bridge pillar. I'll show you on the next lap. And that will take a chunk of time off you. Yeah, that corner is probably one of the corners that requires the most adjustment on entry, because again, the corner falls away halfway through, and so all of a sudden the car's dynamics are different. I'm going to talk about brake points, not this lap, but the next lap. So I'll actually, at each of the points, I'll indicate where my brake points are. Now, I don't know what the stewards would say about that manoeuvre. I was definitely up to the A pillar on the entry into that second apex. I think I would be fair to say I had the line. And if he wanted to stick outside next to me, that's tough luck for him. If there's any racing stewards who want to offer a different view on that, happy to hear it. Okay, so now let's talk about brake points. Talked about the lines and everything, but let's talk about the brake points. So again, you can get a bit more aggressive as the track dries out. At the moment it's not a huge amount of dry out, so we're coming up to the 200 mark. That is generally the brake point until you're on brand new tyres on a lap, say 9. Then you can brake after the 200, but not much after it. The brake point is back there where that hole was. Back to second, then mid-corner you can shift up to third if the gearbox will let you. You have to have a bit of throttle on for the gearbox in this car to go. Okay, ready? Off and flick. See how the steering input was quite aggressive if you're watching the wheel? Far more aggressive than you'll see me do as a one-off movement anyway, anywhere else on the track. All the rest of the movements are quite flowing, but that one is a definite jerk to the left, or left hand down, to really try and get the car to rotate just a tiny bit. And with that I have to talk about brake points, so I'll do it this one. So this is about halfway through. Turn in, off the brake, letting the car coast almost, but with just a little bit of throttle. No brake point there, you can just get off the gas and turn in, so you don't need to brake. Now down here your brake point will change throughout the race. At the moment there's a very slight discoloration after 200, and it's about 10 metres before the 150, and trail brake into that corner, try to maintain somewhere between 50 and 55 k's, and then gradually press the throttle down coming out of that corner until your steering is straight. Okay. There's the second place guy, he's a mile back, he's probably going to pit, yes he will be. See, that was a much faster lap, so we're into the 209s now. That's as much about me driving more aggressively as it is the conditions getting better. See our fuel load. We've got, tell us our fuel, but I can tell you we had about 1.1 laps worth of fuel. Brake point, as I said back there. See a little bit of trailing brake just as I entered the corner. And then we come up to just before this pole, bang, on the brakes, turn in early. Try to get into third gear at the apex, and that'll help you with your extra speed. Stay in second, you'll basically hit the limiter and the flick. So you can see there's just a tiny bit of rear end rotation there. But if you don't do it right, you hit that pillar back there where that puddle was. This is also off camber and it's tricky. You've got to get the turn in early. Again, turn in early, flow the car, and turn in early and hard on the acceleration, and you should come out nice and clean. That probably was the best run, but it was okay. Brake point now, turning in, full throttle, braking in now, turning in, full throttle. You go past the 50 to 100 mark and brake, turn in off the brake, let it coast, and apply a bit of throttle. Turn in, no brake. Again, you're trying to get as close to that apex where those white lines start, because if you can get that right at the right turn-in angle, you can actually apply full throttle and the car will just nicely drift out to the right. Okay, so now, I don't know if you can notice the discoloration, but we're on the brakes, trail braking, and then off, round, keeping the dry, getting it straight, and bang. So I had a slide so I couldn't get on the throttle early enough then. So I'm going to pit this lap. So, pitting, changing your tyres, and at this point of the race, with the way I'm consuming the fuel, I'm aiming to take in about 5.8 laps worth of fuel, which is more than what the game will tell us. You'll see the little dot on the fuel bar in a minute once I change the tyres, but I take the 5.8. The reason I do that is because I want to push for a fastest lap, which means extending the revs, and so to do that I just want to give myself a little bit of margin. It also means that I can gas it up when I come out of the pits and not worry about fuel burn, because you do burn a high rate of fuel coming up to speed in this car. So you can see I've got a nice handy gap, about 11 seconds I guess at the moment, but that will shrink. Maybe it's 9. That will shrink by the time I get to the end of the straight, because I'm obviously building speed and those other cars chasing are at full speed basically. Yeah, there you go, you can see one car, 2 cars, 3 cars. So they're hauling me in at a rapid rate. So on this first lap out, what I'm generally trying to do is not push the car too hard. You'll see that the moisture has now dropped below that first increment, so the track is definitely drying out, which means the tyre will heat up quicker, those blocks will move around more. So what I'm trying to do here is not be as aggressive on this first lap out, just let the tyre get up to a good operating temperature. You hear it squirming around because the tyres are not yet up to temperature. So again, I'm not going too hard here. Early gear change, braking early. This next lap I will definitely start to drive very aggressively for the remaining 4 laps. This is the 5th last lap, it was 8, 9, 10 for the clock. See, that's pretty perfect there. You can see I came in at about 154 and was able to keep it above the 150 mark through that section. So even now I'm still chasing the moisture on the track. There's a change in the colour. You can see the difference that it makes. So I'm going wider to get a straighter earlier exit here for a better run out. And I'll also start using that inside ripple strip to straighten the corner out further. I would not recommend that you do that in the first 3 laps because it will cause you to have oversteer because that ripple strip is incredibly slippery in the first 3 or 4 laps actually. Gear changes, there's a door just there and generally it's near about 275 and that's when I execute the gear change into 6th. And that usually delivers the best terminal velocity at the end of the straight. Still chasing the puddles. Still worried about keeping the tyres nice and cool because I've still got 4 laps to go. Okay, now you'll see the brake point. Bang. You'll see me trail brake a little bit into the corner. I've got a little bit of a tiny slide, so I was probably a bit aggressive then. So now it's really just me versus the track. Comfortably in the lead, and I can just push. This lap from a time perspective is probably one of my best. If I'm not wrong, I think this is a 2:08.407. I don't think it's my fastest ever lap. I think I did a 2:08.1 something in one race. Which again, I'm sure there are many drivers in the game that could knock a lot of time off that lap. So I'm not sitting here saying, wow, you should be impressed that that's a fantastic lap. I'm just saying in the context of this race, this was the best lap that I did. And it ranks probably in the top 10 laps I've done in all the races at this track in this car. Is there anything that I haven't covered that I should cover? What you'll notice is you'll see that I'll start to extend the gears. So there you go. 214, I think that was on chains, and the car will be better and better through that corner, so you can be more aggressive and get on the throttle earlier once you've instigated the turning. Same with this corner, you can generally be more aggressive through there too, if you have got more grip. And you can see I am starting to slide it now, very much like a go-kart sort of style of driving. Oh, there's a touch. So that impacted my speed, it knocked it down by about 4 or 5 k's, I don't know if you noticed that. And I'm also more aggressive there on the braking as well. Taking a bit of a wider entry. What I'm trying to do now that the track is drying, I'm trying to get the car straight out of that corner earlier so I can get on the gas earlier, because that obviously impacts the terminal velocity at the end of this very, very long straight. happy this lap was 2:08. The other thing that I'm also mindful of at this point in the race is looking at those last two cars. I'm yet to get to a point where I can lap either of those. I've got pretty close, but they are like literally 2 or 3 seconds in front of me. But I'm yet to lap one, and that's one of the objectives that I've got for this race, on top of winning. You see a big slide there because I trail braked very late. See there, it just has a bit of a drift going on. You got a very tiny forward. Same here. Trying to use the whole limit of the track on this lap. Some of those points I feel like I got away with it more than it was skill. So that there, like how close was that to rubbing? But you've got to have a go, right? You've got to push. If you're trying to push, you've got to use the boundaries. That way I trailed very late into that corner. But it worked too, because it got me a nicer run out of it. Look at the result of that lap, pushing the boundaries. And at this point I'm not worried about tyre wear, so I didn't worry about that last puddle that I've been going through every other lap. I think I still do it on the last lap out of habit, but I don't need to. There's plenty of tyre grip left in this final lap, as you can see. If I compare that to, say, the other cars that are on softs, he's just pitted. That's why his tyres are in good nick, but look at that, with the tyre wear on mediums, softs with a repit. So these guys, some of these guys have pitted twice. It's pretty cool. Plus, so I hope I've given worthwhile tips and they've made some sense. Please like this video if it has been helpful. Please give me some feedback if what I've talked about didn't make any sense and you'd like me to explain it more. Obviously I appreciate anybody that subscribes to my channel. I don't have a lot of subscribers, and that's probably my fault because I don't do a lot of broadcasts. But it's kind of like a pro quo for me. The more subscribers I have, the more I would be inclined to do videos. You know, it's a bit of a catch-22, isn't it? Probably got to do more videos to get more subscribers. But I kind of feel like if I had more subscribers, that would motivate me to do more videos. Anyway. But I hope this has been helpful for any of you that want to tackle this track or have thought about it, weren't quite sure, or have tried it and got frustrated with it because, you know, like I said, I haven't learnt all of this from doing 2 races or 20 races. I would expect I've probably done over 100, but I don't know exactly because unlike Gran Turismo Sport, it doesn't actually tell me how many races I've done here, but I suspect it's over 100. So, there you go. Finished the race in 27 minutes, something seconds. According to the race time down the bottom there, it was 27:08. It says 27:23 on the replay. Maybe that's factoring in the start and this rolling end of the whole replay itself. I can save it. I can save it. I don't normally save them, but I'll save it, but I won't share it right now. But what I will do is I will go and show you the settings, and I'll let them sit on the screen. I have to go back into the race, I think, to do that. No, I don't. I can go out of the... If I go out of the race, I'm mindful of what might be a blue screen. So, if you'll accommodate me. It might mean I have to do another race, otherwise if I pull out of it, I don't want it to affect my driver rating. So you can see Sport's hard, and these are the settings that I run. Again, bearing in mind, you have to be under 600 pp's. So I do have 1.63 to play with in terms of BP, but I haven't bothered to eke out that extra bit. Maybe I should. But you'll see the setup I have. Now I like a car that is very pointy and loose at the rear end, so please bear that in mind as my driving style. This car doesn't have full tuning on it, so I think some things I can't even adjust anyway, such as those as an example, or these. So at the moment I can't adjust any of the suspension. I can adjust the gearbox, but I won't. But there's the gears for you all to see that I run. And again, I'm trying to find the right combination between pace and fuel burn. Hopefully that's long enough for you guys to capture it. Other than that, everything else is standard. There's no... oh, carbon fibre brakes. I do recommend the carbon fibre brakes, guys. So go into the tuning shop and buy those. Alright, so at the risk of making this a boring broadcast, because I don't want to lose any driver rating points, I'm going to actually now do a live race. So if it's going to be too boring for you, I totally understand. But if you want to watch it live, here we go. Unplanned, and certainly I wasn't thinking through this when I thought about playing and doing this broadcast. But anyway, here we go. Need slimmer fuel. You can see I'm not running any aids except for the ABS. So probably the toughest part of this whole race would be the first 2 to 3 laps, because you're just in amongst all the other AI cars. So breakpoint here, again, I'm off the throttle now, and I'm braking in down 2 gears before I hit that final gantry. I did brake a bit early. Oh, I thought I was going to hit him then. So, you saw me hit the limiter, and this is what you don't want, where you get caught up in with these guys in the corner. That was all my fault, because I geared down too quickly, hit the limiter, and that caused the car to effectively lurch forward and then aquaplane, because I broke so hard to counteract it. I got myself into trouble. So 4th gear through here. Again, we're just rolling because the cars are around us. Very gentle on the throttle out of this corner, because otherwise you will oversteer, point the car towards the inside wall and hit it and get damage. So I'm just being very conservative here because I want to get the credits, and I've got plenty of time. I know I've got pace on the field, so I don't need to rush working my way through the field. So I'm going to be driving a bit of a different race strategy to what you just saw. 3rd gear through here for the first lap, or if you've got other cars around you, you might need to do 3rd gear just to give yourself better traction and throttle control of the car through that section. Down here again, I'm also thinking about fuel conservation in these early laps, so I'm going to get off the throttle. I'm just going to coast in. And hopefully, oh, no damage, that's good. I got contact but no damage, so I'm hoping that won't impact my results. See, I'm in the wet stuff, so I'm not touching my throttle. I should hit that ripple strip to show you what happens, but maybe next lap when there's no other cars around me, it might be safe to do it. I didn't chase the water that time. That won't really damage my tyres too much on this first race. I also shifted early then, that will give me better economy. So I'm going to try and drive at quite a conservative race, because I want to try and get the maximum credits, so you can see that it is possible to get the credits. This side of the track always seems to remain the wettest and the straight here. I'm going to throttle off there, and I'll brake a bit later, just near the 150. See, the track is still wet, so the car's slid. And I am kind of short shifting as well now, because at this point of the race there's no point in me on the wet track burning up my fuel so that I have to brake earlier and harder. I'm just going to put strain on the tyres, burn out the fuel and reduce my options. Now I know I've got the pace, if I drive it nice and neat, to pull in most of the field and eventually the leader, because I'm only going to do it one stop. Top 3 cars generally will do 2. See a lot of understeer there because the track's still wet. So I'll get a 3rd gear and I might, I was thinking about a move, but he broke quite late then. See, I'm understeering a lot there. Over here to the left is where the wettest patch is down here in the first few laps if you want to chase moisture to keep the tyres cool. So, maybe a bit of touch then with that edge. At least it felt like it was. So you will get a slipstream, it's not huge, but you will get one. Move over here though, I want to get this puddle just here. Roll off again. A very different approach to this race where I'm not actually rushing to get to the front. I guess this is just to show you that you can approach this race with different strategies. It just depends on how big you want the winning margin to be, I guess. I think that last race I won by 40 seconds. I think at the moment the way I'm going, I'll probably have a 10 to 20-second win, provided it doesn't go all pear-shaped, and it shouldn't, because I'm not exactly pressing. I guess this is probably giving the more of a spectator enjoyment because there's more cars around and it's just not me lapping. I haven't talked about view, but this is the view that I use. I prefer this to an in-car view. Again, everybody will be different, but I've just from day one of playing Gran Turismo all those years ago, and I'm a GTX veteran, if that makes sense to any of you. I've been playing it for a long time, basically. Probably longer than some of you have been on the planet. See, the car just did a little slip then. I don't know if you saw that, but it did. Lap 4, the leader's 11 seconds up the road, so now it's time to get going a bit, just to make sure I don't put myself in a tough situation. So I'm going to be more aggressive getting around these guys during this lap than to 4th place. Still back off the fuel though, just to save a bit of fuel. There's a big puddle on this side you can use too. That's it there. run on this guy. Didn't quite get it right, so he's going to block me, but she's still going to get up on the inside. It's a shallow line through, but he'll have to back out of it when we get to place. Good guy, hitting too. That's okay. Oops, got that wrong. So then I had to re-brake to pull the car up. You see what I mean about getting on there early? This makes a huge difference to your exit speed out of that corner. See which is that? Put in a good lap time, but that's okay. See, my tyres are in really good condition, even though I've really only got to do another 3 laps on them. But what I have done is I've conserved well. A little bit early then, because I want to try and get a better drive out of here. Oops. A second bite at that. It's totally offline, which is going to affect my speed through here too. What I want to do is I want to try and get that lead down to around 7 or 8 seconds. That's my goal between now and when they will hit, or I will hit. I got off the throttle then and stayed. Oh, sorry, my bad. Changed gear when I didn't need to. Worried about him coming up the inside. I stayed off the throttle deliberately because where I was, if I'd taken my normal line, I would have bumped into him, but by staying off the throttle I was able to stay in tighter, get on the gas at an earlier point and then just out accelerating up the hill. So again, you know, normal kind of race strategy thinking. Anticipate what's going to happen and react to it on the slide. There's a big slide, you saw it then, right? That's lap 5 and the car still decided to have a slide then because I used all of the ripple strip. Okay, the leader is pitted early, that's interesting. Interesting, but also good. I should take a big chunk out of the leader this lap. I'm going to go a bit hard. I'm only doing 211s, but now I should be able to get into the 209s. Otherwise, if I had full throttle, I might have understeered into that wall and ultimately lost speed. So there, I didn't get the entry that I wanted, so it's compromised this whole section. So it's a fantastic track, but because it's a very flowing track, as you can see, it's very easy for you to lose lap speed. pits this lap, it'll just mean I've got a little bit more work to do after I pit. A lot of blocking up then. All that means is that when I pit, I won't come out with clear track. He and probably the Giallo and the Honda, when I do pit at the end of this lap, they will take the lead back off me. They won't get a big enough gap here. Even if I push. I'm pretty sure he will pit this lap as well, but the guys behind him down to 4th will probably pit as well. But Giallo, who's in 5th, is basically just coming past me now, and that's not a big enough gap to get in, get the fuel, and change the tyres that I need, but I won't be too far off. So hard tyres. And then, as I said, we're fueling to 5.8 laps. You'll see the marker is well below that, but I'm not paying attention to the marker, which is the white dot at about 5/8, 60% actually. So we're going to go way beyond that, because that's 5 laps, and I'm going to go to 5.8, just to be safe. Just gives me stacks of fuel. I don't have to worry about really running the revs out like I just did then. So they're both in front of me. I can do this and not have to worry. The lead car will definitely pit again. Now, because I'm so much slower, I can brake way later. That's what happens when you come out on cold tyres. So prove the point, you know, if not the best outcome, it proved the point that if you do push the tyres when you come out, they will give you a hard time back. I'm shallower. I've gone back to 3rd gear there, just to be safe. Oops. Losing my turn. That's, I think, my 3rd or 4th wall bump, so I could have jeopardised my extra bonus here. Yeah, if you do get a lock up, just try to release the brake pressure a little bit if you can. Ideally, an exit lap should be a 2:16. Obviously, had that big moment in turn 1, or maybe it should be regarded as turn 2 or turn 3 even, because we've got that kink there and then we've got this kink up here. But I think of the double apex up here as turn 1. See the speed advantage the GTR has got over me down the straights. But he doesn't have any advantage over me for the rest of the track, so just gradually drive away from him now. Take the fastest lap off you here. Just. Yeah, it wasn't a very tidy lap, to be honest. The second half of the lap was quite okay. The first half was a little bit untidy. See the darker line there on the left? So I'm just trying to keep the tyres in that. And there's some big puddles just here too. Late, so that compromises my exit. Already I've made about 6 errors this lap, which better drivers probably would not make. Taking 4th exit, I just want to really rev it out to catch up some time. Turn in late there. And again here, so far I'm only up to 10 errors. They're only little, but they make a big difference in your time. Changed too early and had no grip. So that would effectively rule out me doing a 208 this lap. Lap 4 tenths down. Not a very clean lap so far at all. Everywhere I shouldn't be, and I'm bumping the walls because I'm out of my rhythm. That's what happens, you get out of your rhythm. Again, I've taken one corner correctly this lap. Forget about this lap and worry about the last one. Tyre wear's gone up a bit, but we should still be okay. Oh, it's been a good demonstration on how not to drive correctly. I'll still get the win, but it's not very tidy. That's the result. It's that hot second slide. Combination of all those errors. Slidey. Gonna throw the car around quite a lot here. Just trying to find some time. Some, but not enough. No 208 this race. Definitely not going to make a 208. Maybe a 2091 maybe? So you've got plenty of fuel left. No, 2012. So not great. Thanks for staying and watching the whole broadcast. That last 27 odd minutes wasn't planned. But I think it was good because it's a good opportunity for you to see a well executed race in the replay, and then the second race, the not so well executed race. The result was still a win. I didn't incur any damage, and so I'm hopeful that in a second when we see what we get, so the career, yeah, I didn't get the bonus. See, it's only 550. No bonus again. Yeah, too many wall bumps in that race. Wasn't very well executed at all. But it's 550,000 credits for 27 minutes. I think it's one of the better races to accumulate credits, especially if you do it clean. Normally I do. So this morning I'm not driving so good. With that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to end the broadcast. I hope you've enjoyed it, and and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day or evening. As I said, please like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Helps me be more motivated. And please put some comments, and if you've watched this, I'm interested to see other people's thoughts. But with that, I want to wish you all the best. This is iflowboy for WHARPED Drive. Wishing you best of the day, and hope to see you on the channel again very soon. Take care and bye for now.